I'm now going to continue my review of Danica McKellar's Math Doesn't Suck book with the following commentary. Okay. At the beginning of this particular chapter, which we're going to review right now, Danica McKellar makes a classic mistake. She assumes that every young lady has attended at least one dance class or has tried out for gymnastics. Some ladies are only aware of gymnastics because they have seen gymnastic competitions during Olympic Games. So not everybody has tried out for gymnastics or for a dance class. Danica McKellar never presents a list of isolated moves or how people arrange those moves. So those people reading this book who have never attended a dance class or enrolled in a gymnastics class will have a clue as to what she is talking about unless they research the topic. And who wants to do that? They're reading a math book. The next thing Danica McKellar does is discuss a fraction with a decimal number in the numerator. I agree that it would be problematic to solve such a problem in the traditional way. Allow me to illustrate. Okay, we're going to use our dry erase marker and my dry erase board to illustrate the problem. Okay, let's start with solving the following problem. Let's say that 0.54 is the numerator of a fraction, and the number 9, well, that's a terrible 9. Let's try that again, shall we? And the number 9 is the denominator of a fraction. If we treat this problem like a typical division problem, we will have the following. But first, let me show you this. Okay. So what will we have? Okay. Let me show you. Obviously, no number multiplied by 9 will give the result of 5. Okay. So what we're doing here, we're basically doing this. Okay, I'm going to show it to you right here. That's basically what we're going to do. So we know that no number times 9 is going to give you 5. Okay? So we place a 0 at the top of this division problem. Okay? Remember, we have to add a decimal point to the answer we are about to derive. And as you can see here, I've already done this. Okay. Of course, the number 54 can actually be divided by 9. Okay. After all, if you multiply the numbers 9 and 6 together, you obtain the answer of 54. So we'll place the number 6 next to the 0. Okay. But what if you forgot, if you were doing this problem right now, what if you forgot the decimal placement in the answer to your problem? This could produce a very quick, incorrect answer. Fortunately, we can fix this problem with a simple solution. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to multiply both the numerator and the denominator of this fraction by 100. If we do that, we have once you multiply it by 100, it becomes 54 over 900. Alright, obviously the numbers 54 and 900 can be divided by 9. So, we're going to have a fraction. We're going to have 6 over 100. And if you divide this 6 by 100, you're going to have a .06. Just like that. Okay? Now, you can actually turn this answer, this one here, this 0.06, into a percent, which would be 6%. You can do that. Okay? Now then, we're now going to try to solve a more complicated fraction. Because that's pretty easy. We've got to do something a little more complicated. Let's say the numerator of this fraction is 0.65 plus 1/4. That's your numerator. Okay? And we're going to say the denominator of this fraction is 6.5. How in the heck are you going to solve that one? That gets a little tricky. Danica McKellar states that there are several methods you could use to solve this fractions. I personally always follow the keep it simple stupid rule. Never make something more complicated than it needs to be. Always simplify the numerator and the denominator of the fractions before you try to solve them. Okay? So, we're going to change this 1/4 here. See the 1/4 right there? We're going to change that to 0.25. That's the first thing we're going to do. Alright. Now, if you add 0.65 to 0.25, you'll have received the sum of 0.90. So let's do that. There's your new numerator. Okay? The next step would be to multiply the numerator and the denominator of this fraction by the number 100. So now the number on the top, which is the numerator, is 90. And the denominator is now 650. That was a terrible way to write this. Let me try again. I think that's a lot easier to solve than what we had before. Okay? Now we can reduce this fraction right off the bat. Both of these numbers can be divided by 5. That means the numerator of this fraction will now be 18 and the denominator will be 130. So let's change the numbers. Numerator of 18 and the denominator of 130. But did you notice something? You can reduce this again. You can divide both numbers by 2. Okay, so we're going to do that. So, if we divide the 18 and 130 by 2, we have 9 over 65. Just like that. Okay? Now, if you divide 9 by 65, you will have the answer of 0.138. That's what you'll have. And you would have approximately 14%. Now, if you wanted to go a little bit more, you could say 13.8%, but you could do that. Okay? Always remember that if you're trying to convert a percent into a fraction, the numerator will always be the percent number and the denominator will always be 100. Okay? For instance, if you wanted to change 10.2%. Let's say you want to change 10.2%. You want to change that into a fraction. Then you would make the numerator. You would make the number 10.2 into the numerator and 100 into the denominator. Okay. That may not be exactly accurate. Let's see. I don't think I figured that one out right. Let me make sure of that. I myself may have made a mistake. Nope, I didn't. That's exactly right. Okay. Alright. So, I did it right and didn't realize it. Sometimes I'm a bit rusty, especially late at night, so we just have to kind of go with my notes. I got it right! Yay! Then Danica McKellar presents a more complicated math problem. She gives you a series of numbers and tells you to place these numbers into a certain sequence. She wants you to present to her the smallest number first and the largest number last. Let's look at my particular example. Okay. Let's say you have the numbers 1.5, 75%, and 8 divided by 6. Okay, now you've got that. You have to arrange these numbers from smallest to largest. The first thing I do is I actually agree with her that we should convert all these numbers to decimals. Okay? Obviously 1.5 is a decimal answer. How are you going to convert 75% into a decimal? Well, that's going to be 0.75. Okay. How did we get this? Okay, when we said 75%, we just moved the decimal place 2 places to the left, and that's how we got it. That's an easy thing to do, and that's something you should practice regularly. Okay. Now, what about the fraction 8 over 6? Well, we can reduce the numerator and denominator by 2. So we'd end up with 4 over 3. 8 over 2 becomes 4 over 3. No, I'm sorry, 8 over 6 becomes 4 over 3. Sorry, my mistake. Because the fraction was 8 over 6. Alright? Then you just divide the 4 by the 3, and you get an answer of 1.3. So now, everything is a decimal. So what is the correct numerical order? Well, the 0.75 immediately becomes the lowest number. The 1.3, well, that's terrible. The 1.3 becomes the second number, and the 1.5, well, that's the largest number. So it goes from 0.75 to 1.3 to 1.5. There you go. And that's what Danica McKellar discusses. Okay? Which is fine. That's great and fantastic. But at the end of the chapter, she starts a discussion on shyness. Okay? I read the whole text before I ever said anything about this, and I read the whole thing. And she never mentions once social anxiety disorder. Now, For those of you who have ever watched my videos and you've watched them regularly, you kind of noticed I had a playlist called Beauty. Well, this happened because of another person. Her handle on YouTube was once Beauty Crush. Of course, it's not that way anymore. And she had also discussed shyness without mentioning social anxiety disorder. I was pretty upset about it. And when I told her how upset I was, she ignored me. And so I said, okay. So I went ahead and put up my own beauty playlist to compete with her. And if you ever check it out, you can see that. Okay? Alright, I kind of wish Danica McKellar had mentioned social anxiety disorder. Obviously she didn't, but we'll go on. She starts her discussion on the topic of people who deliberately look dumb when they are in large crowds of people to avoid any potential embarrassment. Well, that's pretty bad. Of course, I have a quick solution for that. Anybody that's trying to do that, I wanted to tell them that I had already learned from Harry Lorraine how to memorize things rather quickly, and I teach the art of speed reading on my YouTube channel. There you go. Okay? So, if you want information about that, go to my Navigating My YouTube video. Any one of them. I got several of them. Go to any one of them, and you'll find out the secrets of Harry Lorraine. Okay? Or you could just actually read the pinned article on my Speed Learner fan page on Facebook. You can do that too. But I will also give you more motivation not to act dumb in crowds. Did any of you people watch the movie called The Poseidon Adventure, which was released in 1972? If not, go watch that movie. Okay? I have plenty of time, so you can pause this video, watch that movie, and come back. Alright. If you have indeed watched the movie, keep this in mind. The bold ones climbed the Christmas tree. The wimpy ones didn't. All the wimpy people perished in that movie. Don't be a wimpy person, because that's what's going to happen to you one way or the other eventually. Okay, it may not happen right away, but eventually it will. So, hopefully you got some motivation. Now, Danica McKellar asked a question that I will try my best to provide the answer to. Keep in mind this. The character Winnie Cooper from the Wonder Years isn't a real person. So how could you be associated with Winnie Cooper? Okay? Winnie Cooper had her own persona and whatever, and so do you, Danica McKellar. So, trying to portray yourself as her off the set, well, that's not going to work out too good. Now, I grant you that there may be a few character traits that you share with the character you portrayed, because after all, you portrayed Winnie Cooper. Fine, I grant you that. But in the end, Danica McKellar, you are your own person. And I'm sure that not only your family, but anybody who's ever met you has come to the realization you are your own person. That's true. The next thing I'm going to say is that no one should expect you to portray yourself as your most famous character. Because you're not your most famous character. You portray that famous character, but you're not that famous character. Okay? If they do, they have a psychological problem. They can't discern between reality and fantasy. Once you realize this, you can laugh off their critique of you. Did anybody ever, when you were younger, ever explain this to you? If they didn't, I'm sorry they didn't, but they should have. When I was in junior high, I never compared myself to anyone. Saved me from a lot of peer pressure. I was well trained by my parents to be highly resistant to peer pressure. Boy, was I ever. Once you possess the skills of Harry Lorraine, you can express your individuality without any consequences. Because anybody that's trying to compete with you on that, well, you're learning faster than they are. They're going to be more embarrassed than ever to try to critique you in any way. Trust me, it won't take them long either. And I personally partially disagree with one of your statements. There is nothing wrong with flaunting what you're good at as long as everyone else can achieve the same goal. In other words, if you're good at reading and writing, well, most people can do pretty decent reading and writing. So there's nothing wrong with flaunting it as long as everybody knows that they can achieve the same goal as you if they really tried. Okay? And trust me, memorizing things quickly, reading and writing, doing basic arithmetic. Now, I'm not talking about calculus. Not everybody can do calculus. That is kind of hard, and I'm trying to break that down for everybody. But calculus can be rather hard. But there's a lot of things that are really easy. And I've shown you guys what is easy and what is hard. Okay? Thanks to Harry Lorraine, almost everyone can take tests and pass. It depends on the test. And pass those tests with flying colors. So this should not be such a big issue. Now, as a caveat, when it comes to physical sports, that's a different story. Some people have dexterity that other people don't. Okay, that's just part of life. After all, not everyone can sprint across After all, not everyone can sprint across the field or throw a perfect pitch in baseball. And not everyone can sing a pop song with perfect pitch. Don't ask me to repeat that sentence. That's horrible. They shouldn't feel bad because they can't achieve goals that their bodies are not equipped to achieve. And that's all I've got to say. Alright, I will continue this review in a future video, so I hope that you will stay tuned.